Hello, everyone. Thank you once again for coming here today. We are here to discuss optimizing the sales outcome versus training. I'm Anirban Roy Chaudhary. I work as assistant editor with Economic Times, and the co-moderator with me today is Mr. Arun Subramanian. He's the co-founder of Sharpsell AI. Before we go ahead with the questions, Arun, why don't you kindly set the context?
Sure. Thanks, Anirban. Good evening, all. Welcome to this discussion. And I think we've had interactions with a lot of you here. And the idea of having this, I think is that when we build our products and when we go out to the market, we make a lot of hypotheses on what we think is going to work in the market, what we think will not work. What are the real problems out there? Or are we just hearing that there is a problem, but then it actually is not. So there's a lot of questions that we try to answer before we say, hey, is this a direction we want to move in? And more than the direction, the question is what we are trying to build really solving a problem out there? So that's something that we always keep asking ourselves, and we kind of get answers to this in three ways. So one is, of course, to say, hey, if customers keep coming back to us, then you know that something is working. Other one is you spend a lot of time on the field trying to relate to what's going on, and for those of us who don't know, we do a lot of work on enabling frontline sales teams. So that's the core at which a lot of what we do revolves around. And the third is to kind of bring industry experts like you and hear from you on what is really happening and see if we can relate to some of the challenges that you're facing and see if we could get this solved. So that's the reason why we have some of these discussions going on as more of a best practice sharing forum where we can really understand what's going on. So I think that's the context here, and we kind of partnered with Economic Times. I think the vision kind of matches. They are trying to solve certain issues. We are trying to do it, and that's where this partnership started and is going. So the objective of today's discussion is to really figure out what's working and what's not working on with the frontline sales team, because I think uh, we are going through a certain motion. Then COVID hit. A lot of things happened, did not happen. New practices came in. Some of them have already disappeared. Some of them are staying on. And what has also happened is that there's been a tremendous evolution of how customers are looking at our products. So the customer behavior has also changed quite a bit. So given this and the reality that the kind of talent that we are getting out on the field is not really improving day by day. You know, uh, so what is really happening on the field, and what are we really doing to ensure that our sellers represent what we ideally want them to do, on the field, and what is working, what is not working. So the idea is to kind of understand, from each of you on what your experience has been. And again, I think we have people from across industries, across domains, and that is intentional because I think we've also had, I think for some of us, we've also had industry specific discussions. Sometimes we've had, for example, last week we had something very pharma specific in Ahmedabad. A few months ago, we had something very BFSI specific, and we do a lot of work with insurance, so insurance specific, etc. But this time we wanted to kind of see if we can cross pollinate some ideas and see if we can take something around. So I think that's where it is, and I'm really looking forward to understand what your views are and see if some of the hypotheses with which we've started are really holding true. Whether it works, does it work? So uh, so I think that's the context, and the idea is to kind of get all your inputs on this. So with this, I think we will start the discussion maybe with a very very quick round of introduction of all the panelists. Maybe
Hello. Great. Yeah, please.
Hi, good evening. Good to be here. This is Satya here from CSB Bank. I head the learning and development function. Um, over 25 years in learning and development.
Vaishnavi.
So, hello, this is Vaishnavi Godbole. I'm from Alembic and I'm leading the digital learning space in Alembic for the domestic business unit. So, typically, the sales for the medical reps, the sales training for the medical reps.
Fantastic. Mahesh.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Mahesh, and I head learning and development for SBI General, L&D professional for last 25 years.
Brilliant. Ritesh.
Yeah, good evening and namaskar, everybody. My name is Ritesh Kumar Verma. I lead learning and organizational development team of Indoco Remedies, a pharma giant, and I carry almost 24 years of experience, 10 years into hardcore sales and then into sales training and L&D. That's it. Thank
Fantastic. Nishant.
Hi, good evening, friends. My name is Nishant Srinivas. I am with Axis Bank currently. Basically, so I have about good 18 years of experience in insurance, life insurance. That's where I was, and from the last 3 years with the bank. So currently, I'm managing the outbound contact center in terms of hiring, training, quality, and operations. So that's my domain. Training has always been the domain, but trying to learn something new over here. Thank you.
Brilliant. Rachita, please.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rachita Agrawal, and I lead the training function for Mahindra Holidays and Resorts. My overall experience has been into insurance for around 17 years, and last year I have moved into hospitality sales. I had the customer acquisition for them. I worked 7 years into sales, and the rest has been into L&D.
Fantastic. Yeah, please, Sushil.
Hi, good evening to all of you. I'm Sushil Barkur and I represent Alchem Laboratories Limited here. And I have around 23 years of experience, done training, done sales, correct, a little bit of product management, and now purely into learning and development, talent management. And with Alchem, I'm there for last 12 years. So
Wow.
I have seen that transformation.
Brilliant. Akshay.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm audible. Yeah, great. This is Akshay Kashyap. I am the Chief People Officer of Future Generali. Been with the company for 10 years in the insurance space. Again, almost 11 odd years. Worked across multiple industries. Overall, of almost 18 plus years of experience.
Brilliant. Pratik.
So, good evening, everyone. My name is Pratik Kapadia. I've started my career with sales, and then from last 10 years, I'm into this training domain, and I am doing training into the mortgage industry.
Brilliant. Yeah, Neha.
This is Neha. Actually, L&D people don't need the mic. Our voice itself is so loud. I'm working with Kalpatu. It's in real estate company, and experience should be somewhere across 11 years or something. Still learning in learning and development, trying to learn from people and trying to customize learning what exactly do they need from different sectors.
Brilliant. Such a diverse panel. I'm really interested to learn a lot from you all. Before we go into the depth of this discussion, I would like to understand from each one of you, do you recall a purchase experience in your lifetime, and why do you recall that purchase experience? So I'll go first. I bought an iMac, I remember, from an unicorn, until just because the salesperson actually spoke with me in my native language. I am still an unicorn customer, and it's been more than 12, 13 years. So that's the experience that I remember. Yeah. One experience as a customer that you still remember.
Okay, so I have recently visited, and I wouldn't hesitate to take the name of the brand. I visited RBL Bank,
Okay.
and I was so impressed with the branch manager, and he was talking about his customer acquisition strategy. And I instantly called up the HR head to appreciate that how this person is making sense, and I'm now planning to do a YouTube video with him.
Wow.
And one thing which for a salesperson to speak, learning development language. So he said, sir, one thing I have learned in my experience that as a salesperson, you should have ice bucket on head and sugar factory at the lips. Yeah.
Brilliant. It's a headline. Thank you. Satya, one purchase experience that you still remember, and why?
So, this is a purchase in progress.
Okay.
We still in the process of buying a vehicle now, and the Kia showroom that we went to, the discussion was 5-seater or 7-seater.
Hmm.
Kids wanted a 7-seater, right? And I went to the store with this issue. I told him, भैया ये problem है कि मैं decide नहीं कर पा रहा हूँ 5 or 7. I expected the usual rattle of features. This is why you should buy. But this salesperson, he asked me 3 questions,
Okay.
which were so powerful that he actually helped me decide. So
Wow.
for me, his questioning and then offering a customized solution,
Hmm.
yeah, that's something which really stays back.
Brilliant, brilliant, great. Vaishnavi.
Thank you.
Okay, so my experience was a few years back when I was purchasing my first car,
Hmm.
and of course that was supposed to be Maruti Suzuki, but I went it for a Baleno. And I think the most intriguing thing of that connect that happened with the sales rep was around the discussions revolving around the after sales service.
Wow,
So that was the key thing for me that I could probably not forget, and that actually helped me crystallize to go for the choice that I made, and that was for Baleno.
fantastic. Mahesh.
Yeah, so these days you have a lot of hyper personalized, customer service experiences that you can
Correct.
think of. But the experience that I'm sharing is around 15 years back when I was going to buy this Canon Mark II.
Okay.
And this guy didn't have that was the time when I was in Pune. So he said, "Sir, aap kal tak ruk jao. I'll get you from Mumbai." And he actually
Wow,
brought home that camera, and that was a different experience altogether. So getting you personalized experience, getting it delivered at your home was a different experience 15 years back.
fantastic. And I'm sure you must have bought many lenses from
Oh
him
yeah.
afterwards. Ritesh.
Yeah, so what I remember is, like everybody shared, is not the sales process per se. I do not remember that how the invoice was raised and how the payment was made, but I remember how I was made to feel at that point of time, and that
Hmm.
is the experience, because it is related with the car which I bought, which I never wanted to buy. I was thinking of some other brand, but it was the experience which I was allowed to go through and help me decide, okay, let me buy this car.
Fantastic.
So
I
that is
hope the
what I.
salesperson got an appraisal because of that. Yeah, please.
Okay. Let me share. Recently, I went in, was searching for a home interior solutions.
Okay.
So the journey started with local service provider to a high-end brand, to a mid-level brand, to a okay kind of a brand.
Hmm.
So the research was quite elaborate. I could see the journey. I mean, with the in the process, I could see lack of clarity, arrogance, humility, and empathy. Okay, now you know which one I would have gone. Okay, but every brand came with almost similar price, similar solution, but the interaction can be explained in the four words that I just mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay? So I think finally I had to take a decision, and I went with one of the things which can correlate with me better,
Okay.
and that's how I remember that entire transaction of buying something which is a good investment, you can say.
Correct. Correct. Fantastic. No, very well put. Rachita, please.
Yeah, so I think for me, this goes back before I joined insurance. So this is good 17, 18 years back. And so this was the time that the first time I ever met somebody who was other than a LIC agent. He was Max Life agent who came to my place.
Hmm.
And he was actually, the way he explained to us. In fact, after that, I called my husband inside. I said, "Do you understand he's doing so much of analysis for us? Because in those days, it was unheard of. He's going to charge us money for this."
Yeah.
Right, and we went out and he said, clarified that no, I'm not going to be charging you anything for this analysis and all of that. And anyways, we wanted to invest, so that was when I bought my insurance policy. And in fact, that was the guy, then he got me, because of the trust built, he actually got me to move from a telecom job which I was working as a trainer at that point in time, to move into Max Life.
Mhm.
So I can obviously never forget that.
Fantastic. Yeah, such a lasting
And then I
experience.
spent 17 years there.
Brilliant. Sushil.
In fact, my experience is related with the service which has recently happened.
Hmm.
I sent my car for a garage. Correct.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to recommend that garage. That is Gemini Motor Garage. The way they have means pick up, drop of car, isn't it? And during the process, they have used the technology of WhatsApp, isn't it?
Okay.
For building the trust, that was immense for me.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Fantastic. Akshay.
I basically hail from Bihar. Now, think of an Ola or Uber to be booked in Bihar around, let's say, 5, 6, 7 years back.
Hmm.
A difficult task, right? So, first of all, you'll not find the app altogether. And if there's an app, then the guys would book it for you and they would cancel it. So I actually went into to hunting for things around Google to find out if there is if there's a very organized service provider. I get in touch with something called Gozo Cabs,
Okay.
unknown, unheard of. Midnight at around 12 odd time, I use the Google site, get into the so-called app. There was no app, so it was trying to make a booking over there. There's a toll-free number. Call that number, and trust me, I still have that guy's name, Sushant Ghosh. Till date, if I'm in the eastern part of the country, I just need to call up that guy, be it midnight, 2 a.m., any point of time. If it is eastern part of the country, there's nothing else that I trust other than Gozo Cabs. Now, the experience that they've given me is phenomenal. The pricing, the service, I'm talking about the COVID times, the quality of the driver. I think it was phenomenal. The overall
Brilliant.
experience, the confidence about the product, the assurance to the customer, I think it was phenomenal.
Brilliant. Great example. Pratik.
So this experience is when I bought my car last year. That was Tata Punch, and prior to that, I've already booked Hyundai car. And then I booked it, and while going and the Tata Punch was launched, we thought we'll go and just see, me and my wife. We went there, and that salesperson figured out that you have already booked the Hyundai car. So he told, so let's do a test drive, and he caught me at a point. Iska ground clearance kya hai? He caught me at a point, and he demonstrated, and he took us for a back road where we'll have a ride, and he was driving. He intentionally put it on a the side divider part. I
Okay.
said, "Kya ho gaya?" And he said, "So this is the ground clearance. Touch nahi hoga." The second thing, there was a pothole, and then he intentionally put that in that car. ऐसे बोले, "तो आपको पता है road का, how the roads are in India. So
Correct.
basically this will help you out there." So these two things he actually told me. In spite of telling me, he demonstrated that, and that made me. And after that, he went and he told what is the durability and strongness of Tata. But these 2 points, the way he put it, demonstrated, really liked it. And then we cancelled that Hyundai car and we booked Punch. So
Fantastic.
that was a
Wow.
very good experience which I had.
Brilliant. Neha.
So this is about the first purchase of the property which was buying. So this developer, from the day I would have started my search of a property, from that time sending the vehicle at home, getting my prices, from which bank it will, my payment plan, where would the loan fit, and all the after sale service. The day when we were entering my place, all the puja and all that rituals and everything was organized in a manner. It felt like it was not alone me who is purchasing the property. The happiness is from both the side. And still, I would say, even if there is an issue with the maintenance or anything as such, because the customized approach that was there, that how many people are there in your family, what are their likings, what is the age group, which side or which phase would fit you the best, and all that customized approach was something from their end that I didn't even mind shelling few lakhs more to get that experience. It was not for me, was for my family, because they are the one who was gonna spend the majority of the time over there.
Yeah.
So before I could become the customer over there, my family became the customer to them. So I think
Wow.
that was a touching point.
Great. Arun, one experience that you still remember.
So I think it's for me. I'm usually one of those online buy guys. I'll do research, go buy online. But so I was buying this projector. I think a few years, 2 years ago, and so to me, this guy made me buy it from him. I knew that it was more expensive, but I totally was like floored with him. Maybe it's one of those weak moments where I said, I'll not do online. But to me, that guy really understood what I was looking for. He was able to speak my language, and that worked. And I usually pride myself as somebody who's tech geek, and let's say I usually don't like have a lot of expectation from people when I go to buy anything electronic, because I'm like, I've done the research, I know what it is, and I'm just going to experience it there. But this guy understood it, and he sold it to
Wow.
me. Which, I mean, I had alternates, but I still got it from him. And to me, that's something that I really liked about what he did, because I always had a good choice to go elsewhere.
Correct. Fantastic. So what comes out, from this round of questioning about your experience is that most of the times the sales guy probably had that one chance, and definitely he or she cracked it with you. Otherwise, you would not have bought the car that you did, and you would not have bought the house that you did. So here comes the discussion, the next leg of it, where I would like to dive deep with each one of you. starting with you, Neha, I would like to know how is it that Kalpataru is actually leveraging AI to ensure that the training is happening real time and it's not always with the customer, because maybe your salesperson will have few minutes with the customer, but what is the pre-train so that the few minutes are really meaningful?
So usually what happens in all the industry, if you see, the training portion has been decided by the people who are there in the company. We decide what our people would need, what is the training gap, or maybe what is the gap on the field. But we as an industry, we take our feedback from the customers, because they are the one who see the real time picture of it. If I have to design something, leverage any data of sales, I can do it very easily. The customer has walked in, I could see the ticket size, what they are looking for, I can see the locality, and everything is available on Google. If that way I start designing the program, it is not something that is going to help anyone. So what we primarily do is we talk to customers and not the salespeople. So people from HO will call the customer and they will try to get their feedback. So we don't allow the sales personnel to directly get in touch with them and take their feedback. So whatever they say, what is their experience? Was the sales personnel over there trying to pitch the product in the correct way? Has he questioned, or maybe he has given all the answers to the level of satisfaction that the person who has come along with the family, or what the person who has walked in single, is he convinced enough to get his family also along next time, that okay fine, I'll come with my family also? Or maybe what is the USP of the product? This is the way we design all the program for the salespeople. And another thing that we make sure is the sales pitch, because the product, every product industry wide is different. Your product might cost from a lakh of rupees, from 1,000 of rupees, it can go to CR. Our product particularly, it's like people are shelling out their lifetime savings. So it's not one person who is involved in the decision making, it's like the entire family, including from your grandmother to a kid, is also involved in that purchase. So sometimes it happens, okay, I don't want to talk to the junior person, I want to talk to the senior most person, because that's where the credibility lies the more. So we make sure that the junior most person on the field is talking the same language as the senior most person on the field, so there is no deviation. Everybody is trained, the sales pitch remains the same throughout.
Wow.
Nobody's talking a different language. And plus, regarding the costing also, I've seen these are the people might be aging between 25 to 30, and when the family and everybody walks in, they are like, okay, what is the concession that you can provide me? Can I talk to your senior? Again, the role plays over there. So it's like all the people over there, data analysis, their SWOT is very clear. More than their product, they are aware of the competitor's product. Because the person asks very clearly, okay, what you are giving me, what is the best that you can provide that your competitor there can't provide? Because you're selling a premium product in the same vicinity, which might cost you 10 times higher. So you have to justify that USP then and there. What are you providing extra that I should pay for that?
Correct.
So this is the way people are being trained, taking feedback from the customers, taking feedback from the sales individual also, that what customer is looking for, because that helps to decide on your pricing, to decide on your discount, and to decide for your future product also, that what is selling in that market, because every market has a different demand. A person who is staying there, so I'm actually going very industry specific. So anybody who is staying there in the South Bombay would not like to go to Thane for a property purchase, but then it becomes a task to at least pull that person till Western, that okay, this is your second home purchase, can you come little Western side, or maybe you can go or buy a raw house there in Pune, Lonavala and all. So again, a training, that if a customer is saying that okay fine, I have enough, I need not spend over here, so what is your second alternative? How to convert that cold lead of yours to a customer? Now that's a journey all the sales individual are being trained.
Brilliant, Lipur. I mean, the consistency as well as the nurturing of the lead. That's fantastic. Yeah, Alok. I mean, he has already thrown a question to you, and to add to it, I would like to understand from you, how is it that you are creating effective playbooks for your offline sales force to be effective?
Okay, thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity, and I'm sure Sharpcell is trying to figure out what is the way forward, mostly for the training leaders, and how probably you can partner them. As I like to hear my own voice, I'll take around 2.5 minutes to you know
Yeah.
add to whatever I have been trying to speak, wanting to speak, and now got in my. I think most important. There's a WhatsApp university, which keeps sharing some jokes, and we must have received some joke where the customer came to buy one headache tablet and then ended up getting the full yacht and full, fishing equipment and all those things, right? So while this is a sales exaggeration, but I'm sure no great organization would like to create that sales impression, because that customer is not going to come back. And as I always tell my sales people, that sales वाला एक बार बुलाएगा और एक बार लाएगा और सर्विस वाला बार बार बुलाएगा. So these sales and service are the uh, two different dimensions of the same coin. Of course, the sales depends on the complexity of product. So selling a 500 rupees or 1000 rupees systematic investment plan, or 10 lakh or 50 rupees of personal loan, and 50 lakh rupees of housing loan, and 1 crore of house, or a resort membership, or different things are different experiences, and you require different skill sets. uh, in our organization, especially in BFSI, the most important thing is, if you want to service your investor, the one thing you can do is the right advice. Okay, because today, especially BFSI is extremely regulated industry. Not
Yeah.
that real estate is not, and BFSI. I mean, the pharma has always been that. So today, the regulatory intervention and monitoring is intensifying, and brands which would like to last longer than what the normal customer experience would certainly need to. And we know what some of the app based financial institutions are going through today.
Hmm.
Now, not really taking the name, but we all understand where we are heading, and some of the regulator comments are really making the life hell for them.
Yeah.
And tremendous erosion in the investor value, and all enterprises exist because they create investor value.
Correct.
So I think the couple of focus we have in our organization is, one, to build the capability to give right advice,
Okay.
stay ethically right, because you would be subject to challenge, not by only by the regulator or the returns, but also by competition. Third thing is skilling is extremely important, and at HDFC we have been extensively focusing on skilling and certification. So we say, boss, you do certain certifications, do certified financial planner, do the CFA, while many other functions, many other industries certification may not have reached that kind of clear black and white level of exams. But I'm sure great pharma companies or would have really reached some amount of assessment tools and techniques, or insurance companies already have that well prescribed insurance regulatory guidelines. So our focus on a offline sales is, one is your the presence, and the way you talk, the way you give the advice, one side, and the technicality and the depth
Okay.
of that. So these are the two key focus areas, because at the end of the day, people will not say one sold me or second sold me. It's the HDFC sold me.
Mhm.
So your brand is always at a line of fire, and every experience, why we spoke good experience, and with every one good experience, there are thousands of not so good experiences also, and
Yeah.
then the social media is full of such experiences.
Correct. Correct.
Thank you.
Great, brilliant points. I would now like to know from Pratik. I mean, your experience in the mortgage industry. Can you tell me, what are the key elements that contribute in crafting this innovative success stories when it comes to sales-led organizations?
Okay. So when you talk about mortgage industry and what Neha had started, this topic by stating that we look at the final outcome, that is the customer centric. So when we talk about mortgage industry, the ultimate aim is what? The disbursement. Not also disbursement. People will agree the check clearance part. Now, what customer is facing that difficulty in check clearance? For
Hmm.
example, if yes, it was postponed. Why? Check handover. Why? because of the disbursement. Why it was delayed? So whole idea about mortgage industry is not the product or the knowledge gap. It is more on the process part, and the process part could only be improved with the support of a technology.
Okay.
When we are talking about the frontline sales, we are talking about the people who are going and directly interacting with the customers. Now mortgage industry also, it is, we can say it is divided into three. One is the premium segment, one is affordable segment, one is rural, rural financing.
Correct.
So a person going and approaching somewhere in the rural, and we have trained them, we have provided them a certification training program, but at that point of time it is very difficult for him to recollect what he has actually been trained on. And this is fact.
Correct.
Even after the training, even we attended the training, we would have done many training program, but at the time of implementation we would definitely ask, bhai kya sikhaya tha, what was it, right?
Mhm.
So readily availability of the training or the insight or the sourcing norms should be available with the sales team,
Okay.
and that is only possible with some kind of e-learning tool, some kind of easily available training content, a bite-sized training. Okay. And maybe if I just want to learn what is disbursement, I should have some 5 minutes, 10 minutes module ready reckoner on my phone, which I can access easily, and that is only possible if we have good learning management system, and that is also available in regional language.
Okay.
Easily availability, doing it in regional language, that is the first thing we should enable from an industry perspective or anywhere, if you see. So that is one thing. The second, what is more important is to conduct a session with the sales team, especially why they are facing a problem, what is the problem exactly. We normally in industry we call it as an FTR session, first time right, why it was not done. Maybe there is a process gap, and there are, when you do this activity with the people across, you will find yes, there is a process gap.
Mhm.
Out of 100 there are 50 people talking about ye nahi ho raha hai, then there is some problem with the process. Maybe recently we have implemented an account aggregator, but nationalized bank account aggregator nahi hota tha, and we were like pushing them, pulling them, why the account aggregator is not happening. So it was just out of the control,
Correct.
right? So locus of control to be seen, where sales can, what is the perspective of sales kahan tak ja sakta hai. So to enable that, the only solution what I feel is a good learning management system, and just giving them tools, because we are talking about frontline sales, they will be a Gen Z person,
Hmm.
making them sit in a classroom for 8 hours, teaching them so many things. The attention span, even we go and sit in a training center, it will be like, okay, kab kya hoga, break time, tea time, right? It is very difficult to grab their attention. Even in online, facilitator trade program, 1 hour, 2 hours is far more difficult. So we started, I know during the COVID, it was 4 hours, then it was say night 2 hours, then it was 1 hour.
Okay.
Reels be 30 seconds nahi dekhte, just swipe it off. So some content with an AI tool, which you just put the content and quickly it comes the outcome ki okay, 4 slide ban gaya, 4 content ban gaya. It is in a regional language, and then that is something which I feel the sales team will enjoy, and the dependability on the head office team, the dependability on the boss will go off. If we
Brilliant.
give them this some tool where they can easily do it themselves, trust me, the productivity will go up.
Brilliant, brilliant
That is
points,
the thing.
Pratik. Akshay, that's where I'd like you to come in. As an organization, are you leveraging AI to create these training modules that he has just been talking about?
See, I think the use of the word AI is too much to quote off. I would definitely say logics, yes. Use of data, yes. Use of real-time data, again, yes. But AI to create content, that's a desire,
Okay.
right? It's a desire where, of course, I mean, let's talk about the Chat GPT and the AI training. We have already initiated that. A few batches run right from the top to the mid level
Actually, a
today.
little louder if I.
Yeah, sure. So we have run some batches right from the CEO. In fact, my CEO has attended a complete 2 days of training on Chat GPT and AI. So that being the case, we have tried to cascade it from the top to bottom today. We are somewhere till the middle level. That's the intent, to create a complete content data which is data driven, not only for the purpose of training, but also from other perspectives of having AI to be used in for the benefit of the end user.
Hmm.
What's important is the training content to be more realistic, to be more holistic for the end beneficiary. Now, who's my end beneficiary? Unlike other industries, insurance may you don't the end my salesman doesn't reach out to the customer.
Yeah.
He reaches out to an agent. So what is it that he needs to know? He needs to be a product expert, great, but he also needs to be a great people manager,
Hmm.
right? He needs to be a good recruiter. He needs to be a good, you know, a great salesperson, and also great trainer by himself,
Yeah.
right? So these are things that we understood from a date maybe around 4 to 5 years back, where we focused purely upon product training, to today where we're talking about my salesperson to be a holistic human being by large. I think the journey has evolved, which contributes to probably around 60 to 65% of the time being spent on product training, while the remaining 40% of the time being spent on the behavioral training aspects. The NPS scores of their customers, the impacted customers, being readily available to the training to the trained and the trainer both.
Okay.
So when I'm to measure the training effectiveness, my trainer doesn't need to go back to the business and ask them that what's the impact. He actually has a system where he looks into it, that these are my I mean, these are my trainees. These are the matrices of the training
Hmm.
pre. Then he gets a post 1 week score of it. Now theoretically it is supposed to increase. Practically it doesn't happen.
Okay.
Right. So real time data gives you the real mirror of what you desire versus what you actually want. So I have come down to the fact that accepting to the fact that even if it's a 6% of retention, somewhere between 3 to 6% of retention by the end of 3 months, I think it's a great training delivery. Unlike what I started off maybe 10, 15 years back, assuming that 30%, 80 or 60%, 70%, 30%, 10%, and now I say it's 6% of retention. Great, you have created a great impact.
Wow.
So that's
Brilliant.
something which data helped me to confidently talk about today.
Brilliant. Akshay spoke about real time insights, and Satya would like you to come here. CSB Bank, how are you actually, utilizing real time enablement techniques to ensure that your frontline sales force is actually equipped to deal with the changing scenario?
So maybe Satya, I'll just add one more part, specifically for folks who sit out of branches. So they, at least with a lot of other folks, they applied for a sales job. I mean, they didn't get anything. They got a sales job. They know that they are in a sales job. But for most of people, let's say sitting in branches, they never applied for a sales job. But today you say was 38 products, targets on your head, etc., etc. So how do you look at, so I just want you to consider this perspective in answering, because they are not, in their minds, they are not sellers. They are out there servicing.
Yeah.
Sure. Interesting. So that was a googly, by the way, Arun, right? So two parts to the question, the way I see it. One is, of course, how do you gather data of what's happening real time, and the second is how do you translate that into learnings,
Yeah.
right? So the first part, in terms of gathering data, we have multiple touch points. So we have the business partnering team, which does a regular touch point with branches, uh, performers, average to P category, or branches where there is huge attrition. Yeah. So we get a flavor across. We have a connect with the functional heads. Okay. So one at one side the branches. Second is in terms of functional heads. So let's say you have a vertical head, right, for a particular asset, right? Trying to understand from him in terms of what is the requirement across geographies, where is his product offtake not as expected, where it needs to be, right? And in between, we also have a focus group where the learning and development team comes into play, right? So there are three sources of getting information in terms of what is happening,
Hmm.
right? Versus what is it that the management expected, right? So that's a gap analysis, as we call it. Now, now that we have this information with us, and yeah, does it correlate all the time? Not necessarily. So what we really find out is what are some commonalities which are emerging.
Yeah.
Diverse group, different levels, whatever comes out as the top three from our findings here is is what needs to be fed back to the system, right? So that becomes our focus for that month, for that quarter, and all our training refreshes, right? The calendar ensures across regions that these 3 points are catered to. Yeah. So this is as real time as it can be.
Hmm.
And from a banking perspective, the issues are more or less known, right? Gaurav was trying to make a similar point.
Yeah.
Yeah, the issues are known, and you need to build trust. Especially when I'm talking about CSB, how many of us here would know that we've been around for 103 years,
Wow.
right? So trust building becomes the name of the game, and it's in different flavors. The customer walked in, but he was not sure. Customer said, "Oh, I thought you are primarily only into gold loans," right? So really being able to cater that need from different perspectives, that's really what becomes a flavor for us.
Brilliant.
How do we engage that? Quickly to summarize, uh, we ensure the quarterly training calendars, they address this particular need for our branch employees. Arun, specifically about how we cater to the branches there.
Great. You mentioned about the quarterly calendars, and this stands out. Sushil would like to understand from you. I mean, what are the strategies that you found most effective when we talk about enabling the frontline salespeople?
Yeah, you see that. Hello, am I audible?
Yeah.
See, in pharma, little bit different from the other industries, correct? When you have started expressing about that, what is happening in an industry, because in pharma we have a set of customer, isn't it? Like our medical reps are having a list of 200 doctors or 200 customers, for example, isn't it? And beyond this, correct, he doesn't look anything. But in your space, that everybody is customer, correct, who is having some kind of segmentation that maybe that able to sell out this much of money, correct, and this kind of a thing. Now, here the challenge comes in that one time training will not help. Here, the continuous training is a very important thing. And that is where you see that AI enabled sales enablement tools are very useful for us.
Okay.
And that is why you see that even in LMSs of ours, correct, the kind of experiences which we had in the last 6 years with the technology, uh, like if you're not on the mobile, correct, if your knowledge is not on the mobile, correct,
Hmm.
it is easily forgotten.
Okay.
And that is why you see that when a medical representative is going to meet a customer, right, he's waiting there at a waiting hall, right, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden he feels like that after my RCPA means that after doing the chemist visit,
Hmm.
I am targeting this particular product to this doctor as per my brand metrics, but I am seeing a change right now. This doctor has started picking up some other molecule, and I also have the molecule with me. Right. So if I have to pitch this first time to him, then what kind of information I need to have? And that time, if he is having some kind of bite-sized learning with him, correct, it helps him,
Correct.
correct, to refresh it, refresh it, and able to pitch it over there. Second thing, what happens that inside the clinic, you never know what kind of query will come, because in our case, our customer is more knowledgeable than us.
Hmm.
Right, because in other cases, correct, you are the king of your product, right? But
Correct.
here in our case, doctor, maybe that what kind of query that come from there, and that is where, correct, there has to be something in a movement, correct, where he can type it, isn't it, and get the query for answered over there. And that is where you see that we have built, and I have shared last time also, Arun, if you remember, that we have created something which is known as your ask the expert.
Okay.
Right. So our medical representative in front of the doctor is putting it, correct,
Hmm.
and we are having some 5,000 questions over there across that country in that particular segment, correct, where these questions are being asked and the answers are there.
Yeah.
Right. So when one question is going from the data bank, correct, you are having then the series of answers over there.
Correct.
So that helps in the real time conversion of this particular thing. And the last point, correct, which I want to bring in,
Yeah.
you see that anywhere you go in pharma sales or any sales, right? The sales outcome depends upon the clarity in the mind of salesperson, correct, which he is able to answer four questions. Number
Hmm.
one, what am I selling? To whom I am selling? Against what I am selling? And
Hmm.
what will be my approach?
Okay.
First three questions are easy, isn't it? But the fourth question is the most difficult one. And that is why you see that we have been experimenting right now. I would not say that we are right now there. Like in our training programs, correct, when we are making our people to pitch for the product, isn't it? Now we are experimenting with that can we create some persona kind of a thing.
Hmm.
And recently we have done with one organization which I will offline share with you, right? And they are basically voice coaches, isn't it?
Okay.
And they are now utilizing the artificial intelligence tool there, where you just put the scenario specialty and little bit information about that what this profession is.
Yeah.
The platform start throwing the scenarios in front of you, correct? And then
Okay.
it asks you to pitch your product, you record it there, and then the AI starts giving you the feedback
Okay.
in terms of your fluency, in terms of your pronunciation, in terms of that what impact it will create on the customer.
Oh.
Not only that,
Hmm.
one step ahead, then after the analysis, the platform says ki that, and this is a machine recorded voice then, ki that this is how I would have approached the customer,
Hmm.
isn't it? And if you like it, can you repeat? So we have done a pilot with around 80 people, correct, for 10 days in our Lonavala Learning Center. Few interesting findings have come, but still, I would not say that that is true. So this is thanks.
Brilliant. Really nicely put. Vaishnavi would like to understand from you. I mean, taking it from where he ended. Uh, how is it that you are empowering your sales force with tools and technologies so that they are able to perform better?
Sure. So we have two dimensions to this. Okay.
Hmm.
One is a marketing lens.
Yeah.
So all of the trainings that get assigned to the medical reps via a marketing lens, which is typically product knowledge reinforcements. So we have a lot of quizzes and assessments that get rolled out to them. We have all these daily, weekly, and monthly challenges, a lot of engagement around it, like who are the top scorers, and then we reward them and so on and so forth. So this is a piece that comes through the marketing lens. Now, the
Okay.
second lens is through the sales lens,
Hmm.
which is a tough one to kind of cater to because here we are actually talking of upskilling the medical reps in their sales pitch in front of the doctors.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you the two challenges that lie in front of us. Number one, with the legacy brand that we are,
Yeah.
most of the doctors know you, right? So, how much of a time are they really going to be giving it to you? So, it's really even difficult to catch hold of an appointment with your customer. That's number one. And number two, if you take a look at the target audience that I have, which is of medical reps, are they really so polished enough to be grasping something like an AI tool or a simulator where you have some, Firangi AI coming in front of you,
Mhm.
uh, doing a simulation practice in front of you? It might be a little difficult. Is it going to be really stressful for them, or is it something that they're going to be easily resonating with? Is a real time challenge. So, if you really take a look at the demographics of my target audience, it's a big question mark to us on exactly how will we be able to sell a kind of an AI coaching tool to
Correct.
them, which is going to be on the go. Okay. But the positive sign is that yes, I do have a lot of buy-in from the company where we are nonetheless going to be venturing into it. And to give a small example, currently what we are doing in one of the sales enablement platforms that we have, and this is typically for sales,
Yeah.
uh, we do have some individual development plans that get assigned to them, wherein they have to do a video recording of the way they are going to be doing the detailing in front of the doctors.
Okay.
And that gets evaluated by an inbuilt AI tool that helps them with the diction, the communication, the knowledge, the sentiment, and so on and so forth. There is an automated report that gets generated, and plus, I have some managers and trainers evaluating them on how that video recording was. But
Okay.
of course, the step forward would be to run into a detailing practice session, which is on the go,
Hmm.
which the time that you can use effectively between your two doctors or two customers' appointments, you can rather leverage that time to upskill yourself.
Correct.
So that's where we want to head at. But there are two big challenges in this. Number one, is the target audience well equipped to really grasp something like an AI? See, the technologies are racing very badly. They are upgrading themselves like anything. But is the target audience or the end user really up to the mark and up to that pace to
Hmm.
start using it? Is a question, especially for people like us where we are dealing with medical reps. And number two, generally after any training, you do have a lot of feedback analysis that happens.
Correct.
But to really assess an ROI after an introduction of a technology on how much is that money be hitting your P&L as against the sales that you've come, I am not aware of whether there is any company consistently maintaining this data.
Okay.
So to be honest, we are certainly on the path to digitization with whatever that we are using right now, but transformation is yet to come.
Yeah.
And two, whether you want to really detail it with the sales outcome in terms of how much have I invested, mera sales kitna badha, and how much are the returns I've got. I honestly have no answer to that, and I've not come across any organization who has a kind of a concrete plan that here is how we measure the ROI.
Wow.
So two big challenges in front of us, but nonetheless we are going to be venturing into it.
Brilliant, brilliant, Vaishnavi. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Rachita, would like to understand from you. I mean, in what ways do you, contextualize your learning materials so that they address the specific challenges your potential customers could be facing, and your sales force is actually equipped to address those.
So from L&D perspective, what we have done is we have created a very clear seed framework, as we call it,
Hmm.
right? So first step, we talk about skilling. So any L&D manager you speak within my organization will be able to go by it. Wherein we talk about skilling. So a lot of our sales training programs, we say, since it is a long-term membership, we talk about two things. That's the magic plus logic. And that's the skilling certification that we have across for everybody. So while we are focusing on your certifications and all of that, there's another angle that we have added to it is learning through experience. So we have launched programs, from that peer-to-peer learnings are programs that we are using very effectively for skilling. The next step that is there is we call it as engagement.
Hmm.
When we are talking about engagement, we are creating long-term learning journeys so that
Okay.
our salespeople remain, with us, and uh, we keep engaging them. And since they all have different needs at different times, we understand when it's an early joiner or somebody who's completed some time in the organization at a different grade. So there are various engagement platforms that we are creating, and this is also following each program that we create. The third part is obviously we have skilled them, we are engaging with them. However, today's world, it is very important to enable them also. So with every training, we ensure we are giving them some enablement tools. So while we are working on, say, a digital journey where they are getting hyper personalized material to be able to create that, as we say, magic or experience with the customer, right? So
Hmm.
we are working on this digital journey and other tools by which we are enabling them as well. And finally, everything has a deliverable. So like we said, you skill, you engage, you enable, and finally it's linked to your deliverable. So that's the framework for L&D that we follow for MHRIL.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, please. I think he needs to change the tape. So I'll. Mahesh would like to understand from you. I mean, when it comes to the approach of integrating technology into your learning and development process, what is the approach that SBI is actually, following?
Yeah. So anyone, it's been 6 months and been here in the industry for good 2 decades.
You can use the mic. That's important. Yeah,
Yeah. So been in the industry for 2 decades now.
correct.
So what I've seen is, though we have our LMSs as a technology to leverage, what we have seen is it's only used within our organization. It was rather
Hmm.
6 months back used only for uploading only simple e-learning modules that were there. So what we got uh, currently now, that with the kind of ability to include all the three senses of our employees, which is, we call it WAC in simple training language, that you should be addressing the visual appeal, the kinesthetic, and the audio for the employee. And that's where we are saying my LMS should be talking
Hmm.
to people, those who can understand visually. So there should be videos and things which could be quickly adapted to the topic that the learner is going through. Then there should be as usual your learning modules which are there, and of course there has to be gamification which brings in the application side of what the learner is learning, and that's what was typically missing. So we said all three of things would ensure that we create a kind of environment that is conducive for the learner,
Hmm.
and that environment then ensures that we create effectiveness. through this technology. So we have in house, though we had, but we were not using it to the fullest extent. So
Okay.
that's how we are trying to uh, improve it and leverage the technology currently.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing the approach. Ritesh would like to understand from you. I mean, how is it that you know using your learning and actually tweaking it to ensure that they are aligned with the customer expectations that are there, and what role is data and tech playing in this entire mix?
Yep, sure. Thank you. So let me build on what Sushil and Vaishnavi shared because we come from the same industry.
Yeah.
Sushil said two challenges. One is our customers are fixed, right? We have the same customer, we go meet every month. And he also shared that my customer knows more than me,
Hmm.
right? And Vaishnavi, she throws some light on internal customers, our own people, right? And their competencies and capabilities. Let me share two more challenges. Now, the customer interface time typically in pharma is far too less as compared with other industry. On an average, a doctor gives 1 minute per call. 1 minute. Okay.
Yeah.
My medical rep has to meet 10 doctors or 12 doctors, and 1 minute per doctor means 10 minutes or 12 minutes, right? Now, in that 1 minute, typically what the medical rep does across the industry is me, that is Ritesh Verma, my company, Indoco, and my brand, you prescribe. This is the approach. Okay. Now the doctor says, "Bhai, everything is about you, your company, your brand. Where am I in the picture?" So we said, okay, let's have a differential approach wherein we will go and say, sir, you, your patients, and your prescriptions are important for me. Right? Now, if I have to bring about this kind of change, what I need is more information about my customer. Right? So this was the need which was felt by the field. And they say, okay, give me real time information wherein I tap one button and I get the kundali of my customer, what he has done in last 4, 5, 6 months. And typically Sushil will agree. And he also shared, my customer changes the prescription habit very often. Right?
Okay.
It is not that what he was prescribing 1 month ago, he will continue to prescribe for next 6 months or 1 year. He may switch, he may change, right? So in this scenario, what we are trying to develop within the organization is, can we provide a kundli wherein my medical rep, he tap a button and he will come to know what this doctor has been doing for me in last 6 months. Now, this output again is dependent on the input which is going to be submitted by field only, right?
Hmm.
And that is where we are working on. If I know about my customer,
Hmm.
and within that 1 minute, if I can go and talk about my customer, he may be interested in me first and then in my brand second, right? So that is
Correct.
what we are working on. A click of button, one kundli, where my MR knows that this is what has happened in last 6 months, and so he can build on a story.
Hmm.
And going forward, next phase, I mean, we may use AI or some other platform wherein we can also help them that if you go and pitch this story, maybe your customer would be interested in you. Maybe from 1 minute, he can give you one more extra minute. You will get
Wow.
2 minutes. So that is what we are working on.
Brilliant. Really great answer, Ritesh. Thank you. Nishant would like to understand from you, how is it that you are ensuring that the advancement in technologies are actually integrated in your training and learning modules? Yeah.
I would like to first start with the view personal view again.
Correct.
Is that I'm a strong believer of feet on street model sales, which I've done for about 18 years, and then now digital. Okay, I don't meet the customers. Okay, it's on all on the phone. Earlier, it was only meeting customers. So I come to a different paradigm over here. So my personal view is, let's look at AI as to what are we trying to solve for,
Okay.
not AI as something which I have to implement. Okay. Uh, the minute we start identifying what are we solving for, probably the answer will come. Okay, this is where AI will play a role. Now I'm in industry wherein proof of the pudding is very next minute. I train, next minute the person is on the call. Okay, and he talks to the customer and the call is recorded.
Yeah.
Somebody is listening to the call, so people can say your training was good or your training was absolutely no implementation. Okay, nothing. So for many of us in my earliest stint, it was like I train, Then I say, okay, when is the appointment? Then I send somebody behind him, and then he will come back, give me a report that, sir, implementation, part implementation, good implementation. I will try again. So for us, it is immediate.
Yeah.
So then the question is, what are we trying to solve? The first question is, who is your customer? Like, most of, like Vaishnavi also said, who is your customer? In your training, the customer is your salesperson. My average age is 26 in my contact center. 26, 24 to 26, the average age of the callers. Okay, our relationship managers, we can say about 30, 28, 30. So we identify four things, which is why AI came into picture. Not AI came and then we started identifying where to plug the AI. The first is, how do I be very specific in terms of inputs? Because I have, like somebody said, 38 products, right? Arun said 38 products. I don't know, it may be more also. Even I don't know the products which are there in my bank. Second is scale. Everybody understand that reaching everybody is a challenge. Third is speed. If I don't reach my end customer in next 48 hours, probably he will do 10 more errors. It can be detrimental to the brand. The last is, the fourth S is, how do I secure my learning? Can learning be something that I put it in a locker, lock it, and it's there permanent? Okay, not possible. So how do I secure? So being specific, uh, reaching the scale, speed,
Hmm.
and securing that learning is the challenge. Now, to address this four S, which is basically a challenge, A can come into picture in terms of being very specific in your input. For Nishant, this is the input which is required because I heard his 50 calls and he repeatedly makes this mistake. He straight away jumps to the product, never asks, sir, thank you for being a valuable customer to us.
Yeah.
I mean, most of us receive call from banks, and I mean, Gaurav would agree, in the same industry. Uh, so in that, we don't value the customer. That's, if you miss this line, probably you will not get the sale. But how do you ensure that Nishant repeatedly makes this statement to the
Correct.
customer and really with empathy? I mean, not just as a statement. Then scale. Some maybe 10,000, 12,000, 20,000 people. How do I reach in the next 1 hour? Okay. The expectation is that only, you train and the person will start behaving differently tomorrow morning. Okay, or the next hour. Then the speed. Last is securing learning. So that's where we went little reverse in terms of understanding how do I get more inputs in terms of what does Nishant require.
Hmm.
So we had a traditional way of understanding. Put a person, make him listen to 50 of his calls, you will get the inputs, then train him on that. Or find out similar people who are on the floor with similar needs. This is one traditional way of doing it, and we
Yeah.
continue to do that because that interface is required. But we are also, experimented a bit in terms of automating the entire call quality monitoring process, wherein it will show the hotspots that this is where the person is going wrong,
Mhm.
and it is for everybody, no human intervention. An automated engine will do this. Okay. Now that we believe will become a right feed or a specific feed for training, and then comes people like Arun, okay, who can help us with being specific, and not to forget that we do need this help. Uh, Last challenge still remains unsolved, or still to solve, is how do I secure the learning with the span of attention being so low, which is already highlighted, with the generation which wants to move on quick from X to Y to Y to Z, not just in terms of jobs but also in terms of their mind being here in training room, and next in training room I want to do calling, and then calling I want to do something else. Okay. So this is the challenge, and AI comes into picture. So I would say personally, I'm not in a hurry to implement AI everywhere. I mean, that's not the objective at all.
Yeah.
But to understand where AI can help to solve my specific problems.
Correct.
If we identify this, probably AI will be better utilized. Is my personal view, and I'm not saying that in my previous organization or in this organization we have done a lot in this. I think how much ever you do, you still take baby steps in this in this space at least, and
Brilliant.
that continues to be a challenge.
Brilliantly put. Arun, I would like to invite you here to I'm sitting between you and your dinner, and with a brilliant panel like this, the toughest challenge is to make sure that we are on time. So we are at the last phase of our discussion, and Arun, I'd like to invite you to throw a question that is open for all of them to answer.
So, see, one of the things that I mean, and I'll want each of you to answer it anecdotally as much as possible for this, because so the question I have is that see, today the customer has certain expectations of what they want when they interact with a seller. I'm just keeping the term generally a seller, directly your team, intermediary, whatnot. And as an organization, you have typically you'll face two issues. One is that there's always a bottom of the line erosion, and most of you will have at least segments of audience who keep moving out real fast. So there's always like a new set of audience coming in, and while existing let's say team is moving in a certain direction, the customer expectations are evolving. And so what is it that you see are a major disconnect between customer expectation and what a majority of our sellers are not able to provide? And again, I'm leaving the top 10% of the people out, because I mean, they are superstars, they are rock stars, they'll do well anywhere. But most of our problem is with the long tail. So if you look at the long tail of your organization, can we just talk about one anecdote where you say, "Boss, this is what my customer expects," but a vast majority of my sales team is not able to provide that? And maybe we'll just keep it very specific to the industry or company, so that one, we can also understand what's going on with each other's industry. And
Yeah, we can start with Ritesh, from the last part of the table.
Okay, so I mean, one challenge which I can think of is that, I mean, majority of my sales force, they have this approach that, one size fit all, right? They have one sales pitch which they go and present to each and every kind of customer, whether the customer is our own prescriber, non-prescriber, our loyal customer, or you we classify customers like
Yeah,
this. However, majority of them, they have one pitch, they have one story, they go and sell the same story, the same pitch to each and every customer, and maybe sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
so
So that's one
personalization is
challenge
the
which I see.
disconnect that you
Yeah.
highlight. Yeah, Mahesh, you have to switch on the mic for the camera to actually.
Yeah, so the typical challenge in our industry, which is GI, is
Yeah,
that we have a constant product which is innovating, right? So if I have a health product or a health insurance product which gives you XYZ, there's immediately a next month the next competition would bring you. So you've been missing this. So
yeah,
my challenge today is that how do I, keep as Nishant was saying, Nishant was just mentioning, how do I secure that learning and at the same time also build his agility to learn quick on the feet.
correct.
That's the biggest challenge in my industry because the
Fantastic.
products are evolving very, very fast.
Yeah, Vaishnavi?
Yeah. So resonating to what the previous panelist said,
Hmm.
that is equally a challenge for us. That you expect the medical reps who are speaking in the same tone, no matter what the scenario is, whether it's a first-time doctor or what. But to add to it, one more thing is selling a multi-brand product to the
Yeah,
same doctor. So whether it's a focus or a non-focus brand, but we generally see the confidence a lot lesser when you try to sell some another brand with a doctor where your focus brands are already doing well.
yeah.
And somewhere the expectations is that the medical reps go out with a multi-brand selling to the same customer. So that's something that I'll probably like to add on.
Brilliant, brilliant point. Satya,
So maybe for a banking customer, it's about trust. I need
trust.
continuity. Yeah, and when I hear a different voice every time I want my RM, that's a huge gap
Yeah,
that we have.
brilliant. That's a great summary. Please, Alok.
Let me take a little different
Sure, please.
dimension to it because your question will be answered by many and they are quite right experience. Before we go into the effectiveness of Salesforce and the people, I think the most important, who wants to be salesperson?
Hmm.
How many of us would like to see our kids doing sales? And what is that organizations are doing where you take pride in selling whatever you are selling?
Yeah,
And I am telling my salespeople, look, this is the profession where you have least competition. Because if you take the product people general IQ, okay, the investment people general IQ, in many other for example, pharma, the people who are doing the chemical and research and everything, or in mutual fund industry, investment, or here in banking product, are significantly super intelligent people. But they are conceptualizing something,
Yeah.
and who is selling them? And that's the gap which is making them suffer, organized suffer, and the creator also suffer, because he is not able to come across the user the vision with which he thought of.
Correct.
So I think organization need to look at how does he create an extraordinary incentive and value proposition to people who are going to sell it, and how can we bring tremendous pride and purpose in the sales profession.
Okay. That's a really, really great point made. Please highlight the disconnect.
So the disconnect is majority of the sales personnel. They
Hmm.
sometime try to behave as if they are the panacea of all the problems they have in their pocket. Without even listening to what the customer requirement is, they are so trained, or I would say trained so well, good, and they have so much of knowledge. I'd say they are provided with so much of training. They are like, where should I just start talking to the individual and show that I'm trained, well trained.
Yeah.
So they sometime they are not going into the depth of what the customer wants. They're like, I have this, you better take it. ये भी है, ये भी है, ये भी है. Is there an appetite for a person to even want that? Is there a need? Is there a want? It's not there. It's your learning that you're just trying to fit in somewhere. Because I think it's pressure building. So what I feel is, you shouldn't be sounding, or maybe any sales personnel shouldn't sound like every customer is not your customer. Not every customer you can turn it to kind of a loyalty customer of yours. Loyalty can be built, maybe in 10 customers you can build loyalty with the 8, but not with the other 2. So you have to understand, and you should have that understanding that you have to let go of that 2 customers and not concentrate too much of that.
Yeah.
And because in that process you lose that 8 as well. Maybe you're not able to put so much of time and connect with them.
Correct. Great. Pratik, please highlight the disconnects.
Uh, so I would like to speak something from a salesperson perspective.
Hmm.
Why is he doing that, right? So what I figured out is, maybe many a time salesperson intentionally, or whether he's aware about things, he has to do some wrong commitments. He normally does the wrong commitments, and that is the whole thing. It comes out at the end, and customer has to suffer for that. And why? The reason is the sales pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Many a times, even when there's something wrong which goes on, as a L&D expert, we call them up, we ask, why did you do this? Were you not aware about it? They say, sir, month end pressure.
Mhm.
I had to do it. OTC, no? So we have trained some or the other way the process gap as it is. We let go the things. We know there is a process gap. We know this is something wrong. We should not admit. The system should not allow. The system should become strong to
Hmm.
avoid this thing. Sometime it is also the process gap, and the system is not that smart enough to capture, because for example, a simple thing, a residence verification, everything was done, the system, the disbursement end point of time, the system is highlighting we cannot process because the residence verification is not done at night when the disbursement was happening.
Yeah.
Simple thing, the system could have highlighted long back. So the process knowledge is also one thing which system should take care of. And then one thing which is the dependability on the seniors.
Yeah.
As a sales, we tell them to do so many things, but are they the decision maker? We are talking about frontline sales, they are not. So maybe if we them enable with some decision making, capability, then I think so some point of solutions would come. So that's a disconnect
Great.
in the
Great,
solution.
Pratik. Akshay.
Okay. Again, let's look at the term that you use is trust.
Yeah.
So a salesperson definitely is. I mean, for him, the basic thing is trust. That's something that he needs to kick into the customer's mind. Standard expectation from the GI space, at least let me talk from the GI industry specific perspective, is it is your salesman or your salesperson who is your point of contact for the customer who has sold the product to you,
Yeah.
because what you're selling is a promise, right?
Oh.
Forget service. So then comes the next part of it, which is service. In a LI product, probably when you're dead, that's when somebody comes and asks you for a service. But in a GI product, you're alive,
Yeah.
right? And that's when the service comes into picture. So it's not the 1800 number that the customer would first call up to, though it might be sticking onto your policy document. They would prefer calling the same sales guy who has promised him quite a lot of things.
Hmm.
So it's a service commitment, being available to the guy, I mean, to the customer. Now, that's where the challenge of I called you up and I realized that you are not a part of Future Generali anymore.
Yeah.
That's where the challenge comes in. So then comes the things of escalation and things around those. The customer gets a little impatient when he doesn't see that same voice, that same the experience is still the second part of it. You call it a number, you might have somebody else talking about it, and then the experience being good enough. But if he doesn't hear the same voice, that's where the first level of disconnect goes in. So I think trust and service is something, or again, your standard process of service probably
Yeah.
can help can help the customer sustain or to retain back with me. But the biggest problem is if the guy isn't there, I'm gone.
Fantastic. Sushil.
In fact, I will extend my previous answer over there.
Yeah.
In response to your question, that 10% top are different, but what about the 90% tail? You see that if you compare in my industry, the difference between that what the top 10% guys are doing and other 90% are not doing is basically the top 10% are very good in repo building with the customer. And
Yeah.
that is where, if the approach is right, then you can convert 1 minute to 1 hour also.
Yeah.
If the approach is not right, best of the knowledge, best of the AI tool, best of the sales enablement tool is there, but customer has told you that next. So the biggest expectation, the biggest disconnect in pharma sales is the customer expectation, and this is that is the repo building. And the second part is that um, with the help of that repo building, what kind of the confidence you are building in the customer.
Yeah. Fantastic. Great. Rachita.
So, since a lot of important points are already spoken on, I just wanted to highlight one point and taking it from, that nobody really wants to get become a salesperson, right? But when they are coming here right now, what we are facing the long tail. Out of the long tail, a lot of them are new people,
Yeah.
right? We are all facing attrition. We have new joiners. I believe the L1, that is your supervisory hand holding, is a very important aspect in people staying with us and getting successful. I think a lot more work needs to be also done there, because I strongly believe the managers right now need to be trained on how to handle Gen Z. So they
Okay.
were handled very differently by their managers, but
Yeah.
that's not how it works now. So I think the L1 manager training is some, hand holding is a reason why, we the tail is getting longer. So yeah.
Fantastic. Great point. Nishant. You're on the hot seat and you're last, and I know it's pressure. Yeah, but you have to switch on the mic.
That probably I thought is covered.
That's the pressure.
So thank you very much, panel.
In fact,
Right.
just what Rachita has said right now, very brilliant point you have touched upon. And you see that when a manager is doing the field induction of a person, correct?
Yeah.
Thus, the manager is having that entire list that on what areas he needs to be inducted. That is where you see that our LMS with the LXP comes into the picture,
Okay.
right? Where the manager is having a data completely, because there is a possibility that manager is also new,
Yeah.
correct? And he is getting a new salesperson to induct also.
Correct.
So does he knows that how to induct a new medical representative? And that is where you see that technology is very helpful.
Hmm.
But important thing is that how you are popularizing the technology, content, and the process in your organization.
Correct.
Because we are working in a multi-division organization. There are
Absolutely.
28 divisions are there, right? Some 12,500 people are there. Isn't it? Every division is, every SBU is around 900 people,
Hmm.
right? And as an L&D person, correct, our responsibility becomes if I'm bringing one process, whether all 12,500 people are on the same page or not.
Correct.
Correct. And as the 5G is coming into the picture, most of the things, correct, are going to move into your videos, isn't
Yeah.
it? And the AI which is coming now, AI enabled videos are going to be the future, right? Where person can see and do the things of his own as well. So
Brilliant.
I think that popularizing that what we are doing
Hmm.
is more important.
Great. Nishant, I'm not letting you go with a all of the above point answer.
Okay. I think Two points, and one will be repetition. All this enablement, training, learning and development initiatives, uh, the missing link with the customer,
Yeah,
end customer, I'm saying, whether it is bank or pharma or real estate for that matter, is trust, and it's a repetition point.
correct.
The missing link in terms of the learning process, and I don't think there is an answer to it at this stage, with AI or without AI, is who is accountable for learning? Is it the learner or the supervisor?
Brilliant, brilliant
Okay,
point.
so again, all the dynamics of our industries maybe somewhat are similar, somewhat are uh, different.
Correct.
So can I say that the tool that I launched is accountable for learning? Okay,
If the
and
person is not accountable for learning, then he will not use the tool. Just for a joke, but
I know we can go on and on because of the intellect that
yeah,
is there in this room, but that's the time that I had. Arun, you've heard all the disconnects. Now I would like you to be on the hot seat and actually wrap and how you help them
Sure.
establish these disconnects into
Yeah.
powerful tools.
So I think that's like a chicken and egg story, saying who's going to like own it up, who's driving it, and I think the jury is still out. And so I think some of these things that really came out today that I'm kind of taking away was in terms of saying, hey, but what is the real moment of truth? I think Neha started out with saying, what is the customer really hearing? Because while we can kind of ask the seller to kind of talk to the customer and take feedback, that's usually the black hole that we see. Where I'm just adding on to that. Most of your processes are digital, except that moment of truth where you walk into the customer's house or have that meeting. It's except maybe Nishant case, it's a little different because it's all digitized and recorded. But with most face-to-face selling, it's you don't know what it is, and what we've seen is that there's a lot of excuses on what worked and what didn't work, and it's all like left to that. So and uh, and I think Alok was talking about people being advisors and not sellers, and and again, Alok, I mean, there's a small disconnect that I mean, our hypothesis has is that uh, we believe that while we want people to be advisors, you know the reality is that they are forced to be sellers because the questions asked are not saying, "Hey, tell me how did you solve somebody's problem." Question is saying, "Was number kitna hua aapka?" So
That's why we don't have targets and sales incentive.
in HDFC Mutual Fund, okay, that that's a good point. I wasn't aware.
Because uh, look, moment you incentivize sales, you are bound to do the mis-selling. And the whole purpose of investment product is to help, because see, the person who's writing check, he would always like to keep the power with him, right?
True.
It's my money. I'm only going to coach and help him decide, because once he decides the product,
Mhm.
he's a part owner of the decision. Today, then it's not HDFC sold, we bought it.
Makes sense. But is there anybody else who does not run sales incentives?
I
we,
I
we do.
really salute you for this, because that's a belief. In fact,
I mean, that's like utopian. So,
no, it's actually not utopian. I mean, till 17 we didn't have a sales incentive scheme, and then the business forced us to get the incentive scheme. And
okay.
and honestly, I've seen uh, I've actually seen the quality of sales depleting since then. Right. So that's completely agreeable, and I completely echo to what Alok says.
No, I think this is news to me. While we've actually worked with HDFC Mutual, but this is one part that we still learned. I'm taking back. Yeah. So, and I think there's the other
So
part
it
that
has been already there, or recently you have moved? Lovely.
sorry, Nisha.
Yeah.
Mike Nisha.
Previously, I used to work for ICICI Prudential in sales. They successfully moved out of incentives, and it has actually helped them. In terms of it's even the frontline sales. Okay,
Okay.
of course, agents they get commission, but frontline sales. When I did sales, the only thing which was driving was incentive. But everybody in the industry, in insurance at least, they were doubting whether this move will be helpful or not. And I think kudos to them, they successfully moved into a non-incentive annual bonus for the sales guys.
Okay.
Okay,
One
and
small thing I want to
Hmm.
address the confusion. I mean, no sales target doesn't mean we don't have performance appraisal. Huh? So
Exactly.
That is there. And I
Yeah.
think there are, organizations which are saying that there is no bell curve. Okay,
Yeah.
the appraisal systems
Yeah.
are such that it's about the team goal,
True.
not just individual glory. So these are cues that some of them have are giving to the rest, and successful implementation over last, let's say, if we say 8 years or 10 years. iPro, I think, has been doing it for last 12 years close to. Okay, and they are successful, so that's a good
Mm.
indication that it can still work.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, this I'm taking this as news and for me to go and do more research on it because never thought I would hear this. By the way. It's yeah, and so I'm going to partially take what I said back. Yeah, and I think I think one of the other question that also came up a lot of us at this was to say, hey, what kind of inputs is going into helping people understand product vis-a-vis the approach part in terms of how are you interacting with this and how are you slipping in your product features as part of the conversation rather than you going and uh, you know let's say just throwing out all the product knowledge and info that you have. So I think that's something that was consistent across while talked about in different words. And a corollary of that was to say, hey, are right questions being asked? Are we making it open ended? And I think when we related to the first point that we spoke about was about a lot of the most memorable sale that we remembered was about how people are able to get into understanding what we wanted and kind of converted. I think half the cases are people where they said was I never really wanted to buy it. I just chanced upon it, and then what somebody converted me, and so I think that's something that we had discussed quite a lot on, uh, and I think the other part that we spoke about was pitching first time, right? Especially when new information is there, new people is there. That's still going to be a challenge because while people might be new, the product might be new. That you're only getting one chance with that customer as an organization. So how do we kind of make it count? That's still a challenge. And one more thing that I would have wanted to spend a little more time on, maybe we'll kind of do this offline, is where I think a lot of us spoke about giving our sales teams more information, right information, especially let's say in terms of folks in banks where you would still have a lot more transaction history or behavioral information than with some of our other companies where it's more of a one-time sale, where it's let's say far more transactional as a sale, where your interactions are 2 3 points. So one of the hypotheses that we have is that while we can give a lot of data, are our sales teams equipped to make inferences out of it and translate it to conversations out there? So maybe I'll just leave it here, over dinner and drinks, maybe. And I think Vaishnavi talked about ROI and how she's still kind of looking for that elusive answer. And yeah, and I think the other thing that came in was on how one size fits all is something where I think today most of what we hear again, thanks to BCG, where you talk about a segment of one, where you say now I don't have like customer personas, but everybody is a persona of their own, everybody is a segment. While I see a lot of marketing teams moving there, how easy is it to do it in sales? I mean, that's always a question, and I understand that's still a question, and we've still not been, we're still trying to move there. Uh, and I think the role of service in terms of selling, especially where your sale is not transactional or one time, it's kind of reiterated again and again in terms of how you're getting retaining customers, how you're getting repeat business, how you're making that promise and building trust. And lastly, I think there's a lot of discussion on what your level one supervisor is going to do, whether in terms of owning training, in terms of guiding, in terms of ensuring that what is expected of them gets translated, etc. So I think this is a very very quick summary of what I'm taking away from this discussion. And one of the things that we kind of look at, as a hypothesis is that again, the hypothesis for us holds true is people are there out there to sell, while they might eventually become advisors, and we are eventually trying to push them in that direction. We see it as two parts. One is that how can you equip them in the long term, because that's going to be a lot of repetition, a lot of enforcement you keep doing on. While this happens, you can't let customer conversations drop because you're going to get one chance with them. So what we've also kind of done a lot of work in is to say, how do you ensure that you use this frontline team as a conduit to ensure that customer hears what we want them to hear? While I'm not going to put everything on the skill and the thought process of that person on the field. While that is important, I'm not going to rely solely on that. So one of the other things that we kind of worked on over the last few days, last few months, is on saying how do we really solve for this black box of communication? Because except for, let's say, telecalling, nobody has any idea on what's happening unless you do a joint field visit, etc. There again, you're depending on what your manager says, and there are questions on, hey, what is happening to manager bias? People agree the feedback or not, etc. So one of the things that we've been trying to solve for is to say, how can you, one, as an organization, understand what's happening in the moment of truth, and second is, how can we kind of not, even when we have that information, not do a postmortem of what has already happened, but preempt it a little more and give people a chance to rehearse what they're going to say. Uh, because this is, I think, one thing that we have observed in insurance is that, and people who worked in insurance will agree, while a company will have like 30 products out there in the market, you'll see that 95 plus percent of people don't sell more than 3 products. It's not that other products are not good. It's not that others don't work, but it's just that they are comfortable selling those products. You wake them up from sleep, they'll give you the pitch of product A. And there, they don't really care about saying, was what is the most ideal product for you? Does it really cater to your need, etc.? Because it's just that they know that they can operate in that space. So our question was to say, how can we ensure that we kind of put people in that slot where they've kind of gone through enough scenarios where they know what to handle, whatever is thrown at them. How can they? How do they know that? I know what to do because I've already seen this. I know I've already practiced.
For example, if I take this example which Arun was saying. So first, it describes that you need to you are calling Aditi, your customer, who already holds an Axis credit card, and now you have to pitch Axis Burgundy account to them, right? So what I can do is that I can actually, as a seller, I can see these are the pointers that needs to be covered during those scenarios, and of course, with this Sharpsily, you have the option to show it to the seller whether these are the 4 skills that they would be evaluated while
So
they
maybe
do
I'll
this
just add
scenario.
in there. So the
Yeah.
idea is that, as a seller, you say, hey, I expect you to talk about certain things out there. And I also have competencies that I have got in my organization. So how am I overlapping those competencies with the specific pitch that I'm expecting you to make? Yeah.
Yeah. So once I've seen all this as a seller, I click on this continue conversation, some basic instruction. After that, I say, "Good evening, Aditi ma'am. This is Abhijit calling from Axis. Thanks for being a valued partner, valued customer to us. And since you are actively using our credit card, so today I wanted to talk about Axis Burgundy account. So is it a good time to talk for 2 minutes?" So as soon as I stop this and click on submit, now based on my response, the AI will analyze this and again act like a customer persona, which again we have defined, and I will show you after this how we can define various personas of customer. We give a lot of context to the AI, and based on this, the AI will again respond to me saying,
Sure, Abhijit, but I am a bit busy right now. Could we possibly discuss this at a later time?
sure. So again, so we can define various scenarios. We can define various mood of the customer, whether he is busy, aggressive, neutral, friendly, etc. So I will say, sure, Aditi, I understand, and probably we will talk in detail later. But is it okay if I tell in the next 30 seconds what are the major USPs of this particular Burgundy account? I wanted to just talk about the top 3 USPs of this Burgundy account. So I click on this stop and click on submit, and immediately the AI will again whether ask me, okay, proceed ahead, so on and so forth, and then I can talk about the what are the major USPs of this particular Burgundy account. Yeah.
Sure, Abhijit. You have my attention for 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Thanks, Aditi. So with this Burgundy account, Access Burgundy account, you will get a dedicated relationship manager, which will also help you across your different investment, decision, and you will also get as discount as 50% on the processing fees of your investment, and also a great offer for you that over the year you will get 96 book my show accounts. I mean tickets for free. I hope that's okay, or you want me to continue more. I click on this submit button, and again, based on my understanding, the AI will, again respond. So we can define, let's say, how many conversations I want with the users to be with the AI, so on and so forth. And it says,
That sounds interesting. Can you please send me more details over WhatsApp? I'd like to go through it at my convenience. Thanks, Abhijit.
yeah. So that is where let's say the conversation has completed. Yeah. So if I go to the conversation, details again, ultimately I can see the overall how the conversation has been. I
So
can,
maybe
yeah,
I'll just take it. So the idea is you've had this conversation. So now what is the outcome? Because here the idea is to not be judgmental and say right now he was you're right, you're wrong. The idea is to say let the conversation evolve and then talk about three important parts. First is what people want to really know is that, hey, did this convert? What is it that when I'm looking at it from the perspective of customer, how did you come across? Second is we say I wanted you to talk about certain important points. The points could be about your product. The point could also be saying, hey, did you understand the specific need of the customer? Did you ask these questions? So I wanted you to go check certain boxes when having a conversation. Did you even do that? Third is, given all this and I've also got my competency score, how am I going to rate this? So this is something that we have done. And if you can just show a reviewed this
yeah,
one, Abhijit.
yeah. So while I go back, I go to my submitted section. Yeah, yeah. So let's
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
yeah, one of the examples maybe I will put it here, and immediately first the AI will tell in terms of scoring. Let's say overall your score has been 3.5 out of 5, and then after the feedback. So the feedback is very subjective in nature. For example, Abhijit, you did very good job in trying to empathize with the customer, etc. You started well, but can you add this one as well? The second one is what Arun was saying, whether the pointers that were thrown during the starting of the conversation, whether they were covered, not covered, or partially covered. So you can see the intuitive UI design that we have. It's very easy for the seller to understand whether all those star pointers, whether they have covered, not covered, partially covered, so on and so forth. The next part is the skill evaluation. So in terms of skill evaluation, again, let's say these are the 4 5 skills that he or she was evaluated. For example, in product customer fit, he is 4.2 out of 5. Now the beauty of this is again the explanation. The AI also explains why has he been rated 4.2 out of 5. For example, explained well about how inverter AC can save energy, etc. Selling skill is 4 out of 5. Or let's say somewhere if he is rated 2 out of 5, why he has been rated 2 out of 5, so on and so forth. Then the next part is more about the conversation intelligence in terms of what was your pace? Was your pace too fast, too slow, etc.? Empathy, confidence, and overall how your energy was. So that's a very very quick feedback as well as the UI.
So Abhijit, if we can just go. So the idea here is that we realize that none of this can be standardized because each
Yeah.
of you would, let's say, want to do it for your organization and your challenges. So one of the things that, if you can just command plus a little,
Yeah.
Abhijit. So one of the things we have done is to see how we can make this hyper configurable, which means that how can you kind of make each role play, how can you kind of create each customer persona, because in this case if you scroll down,
Yeah.
so you say what is the AI persona context. In some case it could be like somebody who's a 30-year-old, some case it could be 45-year-old married who's already working with you, some case it will be absolute cold call what you do. And you also define the mood of the customer, because we'll want to have our people go through certain scenarios. So you say, do you want the customer to be busy, do you want the customer to be friendly, do you want the customer to be indifferent, do you want the customer to swear at you? You decide what you want your person to go through. And you also have languages, which means today you're seeing conversational English, but reality will be conversational Hindi. And when I say conversational Hindi, it's not like a government document where you just have absolute translation, but people are going to use Hindi. Baaton bahut chalega, but you will also use a lot of English in between. So that's, let's say, realistic, in terms of how much English is used, etc. And the idea here also is that you can set up your evaluation, because let's say Shapsal will say it's 4 on 5, but you can come back and say, "Was this is bullshit? To me, it's a 2 on 5." And our answer is yes, you're right, because we have to keep up to your standards, and Shapsal standards don't matter. So you say you calibrate it right here. If you know that Shapsal is doing it in the short term, you say, okay, be more lenient on this or be more strict on this evaluation. You put the points there, etc. And the most important part here is that what you saw there was a learning tool. But tomorrow I say, boss, you have learned all this, so I'm not going to give you any pointers. I just want to test what you'll do. I'm just going to throw you in the deep end. So what you can do here is you can check these boxes where you say role play description. Do you want points to be showed? Yes or no? If I uncheck it, then that becomes an assessment, because I'm not telling them what I'm expecting. I'm just saying, because this is the scenario, you tell me how you will handle it, and I'll give you an assessment of whether you did something or not. And the most optional part. We have not seen a lot of customers use this part, but if you go to the last one, Abhijit, where you say, because there are going to be certain product specific objections, certain persona specific objections, certain company specific objections that our team will have to face. They're very, very specific to what we are doing in the market. So there you say, in case you want to nudge the AI to take that line of conversation, saying, you know what, but hey, I realize that, let's say, and somebody from Future General is saying, somebody might say, no, but HDFC Ergo product is better. So then how does the AI know? You say you can also add this part saying, talk about, comparing with HDFC Ergo. Or talk about, if you're talking about XUV 700, you say talk about Safari. Because the customer who's looking at this will definitely look at Safari. So how are you able to also make the AI look at certain elements that we know exist out in the field? But how can I put my seller through these things is what the idea is. And I think from the way we looked at it was, we said while the front end of what a seller goes through is fairly standardized, you're having a conversation, you go ahead. But for us, a lot more effort went into this part, because one of the assumptions we had was that if it had to be relevant, then we had to kind of make this hyper configurable. So I think that's the thought process with which we built this in, and I think we kind of launched. We had another version of role plays earlier. I think some of us have seen it, where which was more one way. Where I'll say, okay, this is the pitch. If there's objection, how will you handle it? But we realized the reality is that there is no like one conversation that's going to floor a customer. It's always a series of conversations, a rapport that you build. You let the customer come out with what they really are objecting to, what they really their concern is, and then you talk about how you're solving it. So we said, how do we kind of mimic this reality out there, and how can you allow people to practice? I think this is something that we've kind of taken in, and we, again, so right now English, Hindi work. We're looking at other regional languages also, because the reality is that except even extremely high-end sales, even like for example, people selling multi-crore deals, the conversation is in regional language. So it's very, very few places where you only use English. Never happens in India. So our question was that how are you really able to capture that reality as well? Because you can't make somebody practice in English when they're never going to go out and speak to customers in English. So I think that's broadly what the thought process and flow with PitchWiz was, to say how can you make people practice reality, practice situations, and get this. So yeah, I just thought I'll kind of share this with you, and take your input. Maybe we'll just discuss this offline. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, please.
Arun, see, uh, how to create more scenarios around it. Like, for example, that one scenario you have given over here, right? So, if we start giving you more input to the system, not to you, to the system, that these are the scenarios, correct? I'm talking about the hyper personalization of the customer handling part,
Yeah.
right? Where I have a very specific case, right? That I have met this customer 7 times, right? And he's around 40 years old, correct? He writes for 5 companies, right? And his prescription pattern is like this, correct? He spends this much time. He likes this company's medical representative, right? If I've given all those scenarios to him for the hyper personalization, can it throw something out there, correct? Where my pitching can be perfected.
The answer is yes, and maybe once we are done, I'll show you what it's done for pharma. We have something close to what you're asking for. Right. We will discuss that. The answer is yes.
Because we have experienced something, correct? What I was just telling you, that we have done one pilot, right? So there we have experience. So I'm sure that
No,
you
makes
might
sense.
have
Yeah.
used that.
I take that.
I think Arun, the other thing that you'll have to solve in this process is, honestly, at an L&D level, whether you call it training L&D, investing so much of time to create scenarios is also a challenge for us. How do we uh, get expert support in terms of creating these scenarios? Honestly, uh, even the best of the content writers get bored after writing 10 scenarios. Okay, so that is a additional challenge which is pretty much internal, but every company would require some help.
I take this, and I think this is something that we kind of got this last week, and we had like one of our own internal events where we used it as a cutoff date to launch this, and one thing that came out was, hey, can I have like a pitch with creation wizard, where I just, instead of me entering like some, let's say, 20 things, can I just kind of describe a scenario, and the rest of this gets filled up? Because the question people have is, boss, you're saying a lot of this is optional, but that AI response can be 30 words, it can be 50 words, it can be 150, but when do I know कि क्या मैं use करूँ? Can you kind of pre-fill some of this? And I mean, we're calling it pitch whiz where you just type something, but that's an input that we're taking. Yeah, makes sense.
So Arun, this was just circling back to what he said, and this is one thing that came out even from the feedbacks when we were discussing some of your features, that perhaps a lot needs to be worked out internally in the team from the organization side to give you that material to really build this up. And that's it. It is almost a challenge, but it can also be a showstopper really to really go ahead and start using these features. And number two, when you speak of hyper personalization, scenarios is one, but one difficulty that sometimes people face is between the focus and the non-focus brands. So somehow you have your tier one and tier two brands that are like selling well, and then of course you expect the MRs as well to be pitching in for the non-focus brands that are not the top selling items in a layman's term. So I don't know whether they can be you can be doing something for that as well. But as I said, that the challenge is, and sometimes the challenge might actually become a showstopper
Mhm.
because there is humongous amount of material and working that needs to be done by the marketing team, including with the sales trainers, with you to build this entire up to actually get it going with the medical reps.
Yeah, some great points, based on the demonstration that you have given. And I think we can foster these discussions a little offline while you grab your dinner because there's a dinner waiting for you. In the best interest of time, we'll wrap this session at this moment. But thank you very much once again for all your time and your insights. Please continue the conversation offline. We should not let it go because it was an amazing demonstration given by you, Abhijit. And over to you guys for your interest. Thank you.
Thank you.